To continue, when Christ gave the Our Father, he said to pray it in secret. Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. This is the true spiritual mystery of prayer, to pray in secret, not in public. The practice of public prayer is a practice of institutional coercion and religious totalitarianism. We are meant to be shamed by this, and its chief fruit is the further empowerment of the priest as a necessary intermediary between us and the divine. That time is over. During this prayer in secret, be all the same bold. Say it out loud. There is no need to be so loud as to be heard in the next room, but it is more a matter of authenticity. You are in secret, but not hiding. Speak it with your normal voice. Let this spoken tone carry the truth of how you actually feel in the moment, even if filled with doubt and despair. Prayer is about truth. Speak truly, and then listen inwardly. Listening inwardly can be difficult, especially if we have had little practice. It is, after all, an art of sorts. First a skill, then a craft, and then an art. Holy breath does not shout, for it is of life, just as the prologue of the John Gospel describes. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Contrary to doctrine and ancient ideas, neither the Son or the Father or the Mother is about obedience. Their love grants us full freedom as its highest currently expressed meaning. In our time, however, there has arisen, because of the flaws and the fallen nature of institutional and patriarchal religious practices, the idea that there are absolute moral principles to which everyone must be obedient. One can even understand that there may have been in the past some degree of necessity for this approach, because the human being was not fully developed, did not possess entirely what is potential. And this yet remains true to a degree. We can yet be more. For that reason, a religious culture urging obedience to high moral ideas may have been in the past a bit justified. Yet, the timing of the true second coming in the spiritual is about acknowledging that we are now capable of becoming morally free. The whole point of Christ's present-day baptism of human beings by fire and holy breath concerns this moral freedom. This idea, too, is found in the images of the third Fatima prophecy, which we have been studying. The city is in ruins. Western civilization is undergoing dramatic metamorphosis. What could be more clear from the contemporary events we see on the evening news? Institutional religion must as well transform. The Holy Father leads the procession up the hill to the foot of the cross, there to die in violence, not unlike what is being visited all over the world. The spiritual essence released by this act, the blood, is to be saved by angels and then offered to us in the future as we continue to struggle to make our way toward God. Rudolf Steiner, out of the King's Wisdom, taught us in detail how to have practical relationship with the dead, to those that have crossed over. They remain interested in our lives and available to help. At the same time, nothing that we need is to be hidden from us, if we but rightly understand what Christ tried to teach us about prayer. When we pray the Our Father in secret, we have made of the mind and soul a temple for our immortal spirit. This mood of prayer and the 7 petitions of the Our Father, when practiced, remember what Christ said about building our house upon rock, leads us further. In this temple and in secret, we now say whatever is on our mind, out loud and authentically giving voice to our true feeling nature as we are at that time. We hide nothing. Ask, seek, and knock, he said. If we have a question spoken aloud, and the more modest the question, the more humble, we will receive an answer in the inward silence of our own mind-soul temple. A voice, like in form and texture to our own inner voice, yet so soft, will reply in the clouds of heaven inside us. The reply will be nearly instantaneous and almost simultaneous, because even before we speak out loud, the question has lived first in our hearts, and it's in our hearts that we are known. Recall St. Paul from 1 Corinthians 13. But then I will perceive the same way that I was perceived all along. Because we live in the time of fire, the time of the ruination of the city, where the angel with the sword is acting. Remember, he said, I come not to bring peace, but a sword. And because we strive to walk up the hill, up the mountain, to the cross, that is, because we strive to be moral, Christ's baptism of us by fire is that struggle to walk up that hill, to be moral in a time of great troubles, that is, in this time, this present. If we wish to follow in his steps, we will not be able to hide from moral trials. But the institutional church has fallen. What moral authority can it present to us, when clearly the male institutional hierarchy cannot lead by example? Christ answers this in all the practices he taught, and which we can follow. One of these is prayer. And when the fire of our individual biography forces us to confront troubling individual moral questions, we can no longer lean on the Roman Church, but must instead reside in the Catholic or Christian religion, the universal religion. The religion says, pray in secret, and find your reward in secret, or ask, seek, and knock. Good and humble questions take the form of how may I help this other person? How may I love them? These good questions are other-directed. Self-directed questions, such as get me out of jail, or what is the right number for the lottery, these questions we already know in our hearts the divine should not answer. But if we alter them in the right way, so that we ask, to continue the example, how do I learn to live with being in jail? Or how do I learn to live with being poor? These questions can be answered. However, we must put among many possible questions. However, if we put among many possible questions a straightforward moral question into the intimacy of prayer, something rather remarkable and powerful and initially frightening happens. If we ask, as did the character in the movie $1 Million Baby, should I help this person who wants to die, we do not get an answer, but silence. The silence speaks thus: you already know what the right thing to do is. There is in the silence no abandonment, but rather a gift of freedom, and most remarkably a gift of trust. You know, you decide, you act, says the silence. The same faith we have in God, God has in us. Remember the story of Job. Silence also says, you cannot hide here by making the divine responsible for what life and the baptism by fire of your own biography has already made you responsible. Don't in prayer come and shift the blame to the divine or to a book or to another person in the form of a priest or a bishop or a pope. It's your life, you decide. This is what it means to be baptized by fire and to walk up the hill or the mountain of moral trials through the ruination of the city and toward the cross. But what then about the baptism by holy breath? What is that about? Next, in prayer, we share what we have decided to do. We take responsibility and we let the Father know. We accept the cup with gratefulness. This Christ lived and taught by example. Let's pause.